So good afternoon, guys. It's Mr. Landers again, and this is video number 2 about don't let the narc allow you to play the games into parental alienation. And in the first video, what I went on about is a client I was working with, and just for a disclaimer, the client has allowed me to elaborate a bit on his story. Obviously, I'm not going to mention his names, etc. So picking up from the last video, we mentioned that what we mustn't to try and do at all costs is not to try and validate ourselves to a point of, remember we spoke about that there's an extremity in one end in the child's brain, being told that the parent is no good, the parent is this, the parent's that. There's a real confusion going on. And then with the validation, it creates that stress point that somewhere in any stress point it has to break. So carrying on from that, at the tail end of the video, I mentioned about the way you can try and get around this confusion is by validating an experience that you've had with your child, because they'll probably be getting told that of all the negative things that you may have done if the relationship was dysfunctional, because the high probability that if parental alienation is occurring is there would be a dysfunction in the relationship, because no healthy adults would embark on this form of behaviour towards a child if it wasn't from dysfunction, if it wasn't from some type of upbringing they've experienced, in the sense of they've become narcissistic and now they've dealing with an injury that now they're pushing onto their children as a way of getting back at the healthier parent, let's say it like that. So another few suggestions would be, give yourself the 24 hours that we spoke about and just try and keep the ambience surreal. And it's something that I found worked a little bit with my clients. Was this is at the very beginning now, if there's still a line of communication in when you're looking after your children, is that when we do coaching, what we do a lot of the time is we'll pick up a stone, and when we want to, if we're amongst a circle or amongst a group, we'll go, when I pick up this stone, it's my turn to talk. No one else is allowed to respond. We only can speak our truths, and whatever we say with this stone, or something that represents a point of, I have the torch, I'm allowed to speak. And there's a structure in that. I think that children, let's say above 10 to 15, they get that, because there is, so that's a good way of saying, right now we can air out our grievances. If there's anything you need to say to mummy or daddy that's concerning you, without me interrupting, it's a good way of you not trying to jump in and validate everything, which is also beneficial. The biggest suggestion I could give to anyone who's maybe experiencing this is, do not allow the roles to be reversed. And what I mean by this is, do not allow the child to parent the adult. And you'll see this a lot of times where people have suffered with parental alienation, where they will be so frightful, so stressed of saying or doing anything wrong, that they literally go into this role reversal where they start allowing the child to dictate the relationship. So discipline goes out the window, structure goes out the window. And I know it's a moment where it seems like the last thing you want to do is discipline. And I don't mean it in a heavy sense, but there still needs to be a consequence to an action. You still need to, for your own sanity and your own safe space in your mind, your own emotional place, is there needs to be a holding it together. So if it roller coasters, if it gets bigger and bigger, this problem, you need to keep a structure inside yourself in place, because as soon as you start giving away your power as a parent to a child that's being manipulated from the outside, you are then just speeding up the process, because then you don't have any ability to try to understand in a normal top-down relationship how the best way is out of this. If you start turning it upside down on its head, it will seem like the right thing to do at the time, but I can assure you it won't serve you or the child. The classic thing is, but we have a real problem doing this, is try and limit phone times. What I mean by that is try and limit the amount of time that the child is alone with the phone. And it means that you as an adult as well have to not be on your phone 24/7. It means getting more creative with trying to find out what the child used to do, whether it's drawing, whether it's, as I said, games and stuff like that, whether you want to sit down and discuss the schoolwork, whether you go back to old school where let's do some cooking, let's do some cakes, anything to try and bring, because today we're already at a point where technology has sprung upon us that starts stretching the fabrics of the family, the nuclear family apart. And I mean different bedrooms, different experiences for everyone. We're all watching YouTube with different likes and different choices. So our brain's getting bombarded with, it's not the same with talking about a topic, talking about a subject that we all have common ground in. So we're already being stretched away from one another. So the reason I say that is because it's a gateway for more and more abuse. It's a gateway where you are making a little headway into making the house a more stable environment, and then a phone call will happen and the abusive partner, because remember, their intention is to disrupt, to destroy, to obliterate the relationship, because their sole goal is to get over their injury. As I mentioned in the first video, because you had the temerity to leave, because you decided enough was enough. So try and get the child away from the phone, not in the sense that this is a punishment, you must be off your phone, but regulate it. Try and keep humour up. Try and keep the sense of humour up, the fun value up. Don't be seeking to find out all the time, are you okay? Are you feeling okay? Shall we do this? Shall we do that? Just try and do it as natural as possible. So we're just trying to get away from that stressing out, because children can adapt. Children can adapt, but they will always go where they feel, even if it's detrimental to them, they will always go where it feels safer. And that can even be with the abusive parent, because they will be offered the earth, and because they've been programming the child to make it believe that the other parent's house is not a safe place because they've done this, they've done that. By being extreme yourself, you're playing straight into the hands of the alienator. You're playing straight into the hands of their game. That's basically what this video is about. Don't make it easy for them. And then there's just a couple of other bits would be, if you was trying to work with someone who was to have suspected that they were victims, this is to any other coaches and something like that. If you was to work with anyone that you had been told that they suspected that they were a victim of parental alienation. And if you was to observe the child and the parent, let's say the unhealthy parent and the child, there will be a real exaggerated sense of closeness there. Now, I don't mean when children are close to their parents, you do get it where a child's very affectionate, the parent's very affectionate, but there will be an agreement by the child on everything the unhealthy parent will say. And most of the time speaking, children, even when they're coming from a household that's full of abuse and dysfunction, if they're talking to authorities, they will very rarely be against their parents or a parent. So an example would be if you was working with someone trying to diagnose if this parent is alienating the child from the healthy parent, if you was observing it and you could see that the child was totally for the parent, the unhealthy parent, and then whenever the healthy parent in question was brought up, that the child would be a total ripping that parent apart. That's a very healthy sign or a red flag sign that something extreme is going on, because it doesn't normally happen like that, because as children have innate survival mechanisms where they would even put up with extreme abuse even from both parents if they thought that it was still in some way keeping them safe and alive. That's how we are innately, that's how we've evolved, that's how we've survived our species. So that's just part 2 of the video. I hope that helps as well. It's just some thoughts based on some of the clients that we speak to and some of the literature we've read. It's a topic that's so hard to work your way around, because you're dealing with feelings and unprovable facts. You're dealing with, that sounds crazy to say an unprovable fact, but everything's distorted. And that's why I said the high probability is through leaving a narcissist is where the high probability, where if you had to co-parent with them, will be if they can't manage to pull your life apart, as in destroy your relationships, they would go after the thing that's most precious to most healthy parents, and that's the children. So thanks again for listening. My name's David Landers. I'm going to be running a lot of videos because I'm starting a business up in coaching, and I'm working on a modality that I think could help in these scenarios. Like I said, I will say again, I aim to do no harm. That's my code of ethics. My accreditation also strongly advises me strongly to work within my scope of expertise. So I will never aim to do any harm. I'm just putting out videos that hopefully, if someone else is going through this, as some of the clients I work with are, then I hope you find this valuable. Thank you very much. And once again, I'll do another video of how, once it's become extreme, how the parent who's at the receiving end of this abuse can do some things that can help them make it more manageable. And that's the only thing they can do, is manage it, because it's such a destructive force. It's such a destructive thing to do to an adult, another adult, and especially a child. Okay, David Landers, Shed It to the Light, and this is davelanders47gmail.com. Thank you for listening.